Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Pantheon project once again, and we're here for another class discussion, but this time on the Crusader. And so with me, we have our tank, Steelheart.
Hey, hey!
Hey, and Nightangel. Say hello, everybody.
Hi.
And so we'll just get right into our class discussion this time on a tank, finally, which we've all been waiting for, or one person in particular here in this discussion. And so the Crusader, its role, tank, its style is he is proficient in most melee weapons and can cast beneficial spells when following a god. He can equip 2 shields for ultimate defense abilities. So let's just pause there. 2 shields.
2, not 1. Dual wield shields. I mean, seriously.
Have we ever seen this before?
No.
No?
Not that I know.
I had actually heard it was tried in a different game. I don't remember which game it was. I'm gonna have to find out which one it was. Obviously, a tank with 2 shields. I can't think of something be more tanky than a tank with 2 shields. How awesome is that?
I could just imagine trying to make it look cool though, like you're all spinning with 2 shields. And
bash and
like,
yeah.
Spin moves where you hitting them with the edge, bashing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, of course, blocking.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
If you have 2 different sized shields,
what if you had
you
2
got
kite
the big kite
shields?
shield. Exactly. Wall.
Well, it gives a whole new meaning to shield wall anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's one of my big complaints in most of these MMOs here lately is that the tanks didn't feel tanky enough. It's, in SWTOR, the Guardian never felt tanky enough. And actually, the Vanguard was one of the better tanks, and that was a range tank, and that was pretty cool. But you don't think of tanking, at least old school players don't think of tanking as being way out there, tanking the mob from a distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be up close and personal. I want to be in this mob's crotch. You know,
Yes.
I want to. All I see is just crotch and legs, and just be able to take the hits.
Yes.
And the aggro, being able to keep the aggro, take the hits. That's tanking to me.
Yeah.
Defense, old school defense.
We'll name this cast Crotch and Legs.
Crotch and legs.
Crotch and legs.
So yeah, it's exciting, right? Because like we just haven't had tanks in games in a
long
while. Besides like Neverwinter, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's like it was almost refreshing to like get back in that role and feel like you're tanking and feel like you're doing DPS and someone that actually has control of a mob instead of just all this crazy mess going on and no one has the mob on them. It's gonna be nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just so refreshing. I'm going to use a word that I said earlier in a week that is an unmanly word. I'm definitely an untanky word, if that's a word. It is now. And I gushed. I was like, ooh, this is what I want in a game. This is a tank.
A tank. And so it's able to specialize, or has 2 specializations: the Cavalier, a warrior who uses physical prowess to overpower his or her enemies, or the Paladin, a holy knight blessed by their god to smite down their foes.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it too, and it sounds like they went the common route that a lot of games do nowadays. That they're going to give you a choice to specialize in either a DPS, basically a DPS warrior, or a defensive warrior is what it sounds like to me, and that's fine because not everybody wants to be a tank, and quite honestly, not everybody should.
Yeah.
Go beat on things with your sword.
Or it seems
I
like
hit 'em with my shield.
it seems like one's more physical and then one has more abilities like casting and everything.
Yep.
So there you go.
It's
So
definitely a great off tank, though.
Yeah. But 2 shields? Tank.
Still.
Tank.
Yeah, definitely tank.
That's all they're doing. What are you doing today? I'm gonna just get beat on.
I'm tanking.
I am a meat shield.
True meat shields, and being that it's called the Crusader, which automatically, if you've played some of the EverQuest games or some of the old school MMOs, then that's relative, or at least puts it into your head. Hey, paladin, So it's where they say a holy knight blessed by their god to smite down their foes. You know, it's you think of maybe heals or not the smiting part, obviously, but having some of those abilities that the paladin did. And obviously, the more abilities you have outside of pure offensive damage or defensive ability or defensive armor class, so to speak, is going to give you more aggro generation. And as a tank, those abilities are very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So, just a little description on the Crusader, or for the lore's sake, is the Crusader is a powerful knight whose devotion to king and deity is so great that he has been blessed with divine powers. A paragon of virtue, the Crusader commands the battlefield and defends the weak. Brave and bold, the Crusader is always at the front of any fray, guarding his allies against harm with armor and faith. Just
Tank.
Complete
It's
opposite.
tank.
It's
Complete
tank.
opposite of the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
you got the lighter side with this guy. You have
Yeah.
the darker side who's more chaotic, if you will.
It's like Superman.
Yeah, well, I
It's
mean,
kryptonite.
even look at this. Crusaders are leaders, motivators, champions. Tank. It's if you read
out of
into it,
front.
and forgive my borrowed earbud here, my sons are pretty rough on these things. About time for Daddy to get one and put it up. But if you read the description, motivators. Are we looking at a play on words here? Does that mean buffs?
Yeah, probably. I mean, because when you think of motivators, you think of someone who's going to rally.
Yeah,
Your-
like a
your,
rallying call or like a shout
so
or something, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what I
I
think
forget
of.
which class that was that had shout, but
I don't remember.
oh no, that's a WoW. Oh no.
What? You went there? What? That hideous? Oh, you went there.
Oh well, forgive me.
There were a lot of games that used shouts. Like
Yeah.
I believe it was the champion in Lord of the Rings Online. They did a lot of shouting and use of that. So again, I think motivators is that kind of mechanic.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it just seems like that leader role, right? Like they're just leading their spells or whatever their abilities are called motivators. They're a champion. They have the two shields. They're like that's who goes first.
You got your
And that's
wall,
who's
and
up
he's
front.
like moving forward, shouting.
You can hear
it's
it. Send in the tank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just by the
Absolutely.
nature of the description, at least the two shield tank, you don't think of this as an agile class, is what we would consider a high dexterity class or something like that. You don't think of it as an avoidance tank. This to me seems like a true health armor class oriented tank
In your face.
in your face or your crotch.
Yeah. and so when they talk about how like you'll see a mob and you'll have to prepare, like how you gonna prepare for this. I can imagine being in a dungeon, you look around a corner and there's this big old dragon. Two shields.
Two shields.
Definitely two shields.
Two shields.
Yeah.
And they even go on to state in a paragraph on down, on Terminus, the size and shape of the shield can be as important as the metal it's made from or the magic imbued upon it. Larger shields covering wider areas are easy to block with. So it's not only two shields, but the size of your shields.
Yeah, what shields you gonna use? You have a kite shield, or you using a little buckler, or
Yeah, and if you got two bucklers, I mean, there's some offensive bashing in there, maybe with blades on them or whatever. It's got me really excited. It really does.
yes. And so let's just talk a little bit more about the details that we know so far, or maybe guess at some of the details. But it talks about building loyalty with their god or king. As loyalty grows, it unlocks access to benefits. So
I thought that was very interesting. It kind of goes back to our whole mechanic that we were discussing in our last cast, that your choice in deity matters, and your choice of who you follow matters. But I also thought they threw in a nice spin with the king, so it also, I guess maybe with the faction will give you a certain buff or not, for depending on which one you follow.
Yeah, and as far as increasing your skills and everything, I mean, like I said, that kind of reminds you of, okay, when I achieve this level of skill or level or whatever, we're going to use this progression in this game. And I know they said it was a horizontal progression, partly also. You think when you get to the top of that, there could be a lay of hands. I mean, it's a paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's there's literally some really interesting aspects in the words if you read through them, and I'm going to take a guess that a lot of what this class actually does is in the paragraphs, and it's not just pretty flowery writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially the part that says the Crusader may dual wield shields to protect his group and bash his opponents.
Yeah.
Tank.
Tank. Yes. And so we talked a little bit about the Dark Knight and how this seems like the complete opposite. Well, the White Knight in full plate armor, you could say almost white armor. Like everything seems so dark, and everything about the Dark Knight and everything here just seems so like white.
Well, it's
life.
Exactly. Well, the valor and justice. You don't see like a gray armor knight and and think of valor and justice.
Yeah.
You see that white shining knight, and that's what you think of.
I remember in EQ2, like that really shiny, like silver armor. Like if you had a full suit of that, you just look like this big shiny ball of armor just running around.
Yeah.
It was almost ridiculous.
Wasn't that steel armor?
Yeah, steel, I think it was.
That's
a good name.
Heck, I remember my first set of bronze armor. What are you talking about? I was so proud when I got my first set of bronze armor.
When you got bronze, it was just like, oh, that looks awesome. Like bronze, you worked so hard to get that, and I remember like being in Thundering Steps, and like by the end of that, you should have a full suit of bronze armor. And
Yep. But
and then that became the ugliest looking armor in the
became
entire
the
game.
ugliest. Especially back then. This before dyeing armor or anything like that.
Yeah.
And true tanks, people who actually were more concerned about tanking than their looks, you ended up looking like patchwork knights in the end. Cobalt armor, steel gauntlets. It just, literally. And you could tell it when you were grouped with a tank, or you saw somebody out there on the wall at Karnar's castle, and you looked, and it's like, this guy's outfitted pretty well. You could actually tell what the tanks were equipped with back there if I happened to inspect them. Yeah. And I don't know if we'll see that in this game. It just seems to be nowadays it's armor dyes and everything like that.
Yeah, wear whatever
and that's fine. Just, I got my tank. Yay!
That's right. So they talked a little bit about squires. Squires?
I was curious about that, and it was in the flavor text, if you will, if we take it as flavor text, like Steele said, and we may actually be reading part of the mechanics. I was curious, when they talk about the squire, what that really means.
You just throw this little person out there. Get him!
Well, it says, that eventually you'll earn that the squires will all come crawling to you, and they want to be your squire. So how does that go about? I mean, it is a literally like a faction thing that you build up, and maybe within a certain faction limit you might earn a squire, or is it at a certain level that you attain, do you get the ability to summon a squire? I mean, how would that work?
I think that sounds the simplest, right? Like,
yeah, henchman.
It's just like as you level up, you get a squire, or you get like the next version up or something, because it just seems like maybe a buff, like part of that, like rallying call or something. Like if you had a squire and they're all carrying a flag behind you, like
yeah, I could see him being a flag holder.
It's almost like one of those. I forget what class it was, but you would have these pets, but they didn't actually do combat, but they were just there as like a buff, and that just showed the buff was out. I remember as a Templar in EverQuest, I forget what pet I had, but it always came out, and that meant this buff was on or whatever.
Well, I could see it going a couple different ways.
God. It was part of your deity. like devotion, and so that pet came out, and you had your deity buff. Well, this could be your squire buff. I don't know.
Yeah, and I could see that going a couple different ways. I could see like in Neverwinter, the companion or the henchman type thing that you had a basically an NPC follow around, help you a little bit, and we've seen that in Star Wars: The Old Republic and Neverwinter, and whereas it's not a game changer, it has been effective in one form or another, or it quite could possibly be the rallying call is just, basically you do your rally call and then poof, 1, 2, 3 squires appear beside you, and for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, more like a summoning spell, temporary summoning spell than actually a NPC. So I could see two ways that it could really go.
And there's a class in Lord of the Rings that actually has a banner carrier. And that's kind of how I picture the squire as being. And you summon the banner carrier. And it provides, depending on the banner itself, it will provide different buffs. So maybe that might be what it's thinking about.
Maybe. We'll just have to see.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. Everything we talk about. We just haven't seen it yet, but this is what we're guessing. Okay. Loyalties. They can change their loyalty, but there will be consequences. Is this like betraying in EverQuest 2?
Maybe not.
Like loyalties to who?
Your lord or your king or even your deity, probably.
Yeah. But and
deity would be more what I would think if you think of old EQ, the way that eventually they added the deities into the games where there were certain perks for being with one deity or another. I remember it was Rallis Zek was the one that all the tanks ended up wanting to be, but they'd put it like, I don't even remember, Planes of Power, I guess it was, that they implemented it, and if you chose a deity, whatever deity you chose, you were stuck with. Or for you like me, I started the game and I'm like, not really understanding what the future could hold. And I was like, nah, I ain't doing no deity. I'm me, and I didn't get a chance to find religion. I even messaged the GM. I said, when I messaged him in my thing, I was like, oh my God. and he messaged me back and he's like, can I help you? You're not going to believe this. It's like, what? I found religion. He didn't buy it. Yeah. He's like, I appreciate the fact you found religion, but I'm not changing what you're doing.
That's hilarious.
So we're not sure what this means or could mean for the Crusader. I don't know if this means they can be an evil Crusader or something, but...
Well, it says in the paragraph, it says there's a sentence in there that it has been known for Crusaders to change their allegiance from one country to another, though there may be consequences involved.
Yeah.
So faction-based.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
be like going from Kinos to Freeport.
Yeah, but we can only assume what factions there will be, or what cities there are, or what kings you can be loyal to, because we don't. All we have right now is the Arch City and what was it? Not Legion.
The Ship City.
Ship City. Yeah.
I already forgot. We talked about it 2 days ago, and I can remember the Ship City.
Oh goodness.
Shipland.
It's been a long day.
Yeah. It has.
The Armada.
Armada. There we go. Armada.
Been a long couple days.
Yeah.
It really has.
But so much information coming out of the Pantheon crew. A lot of it, and pretty regular too.
Yeah.
I love it. Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.
So divine magic. Paladin. I just think paladin, right?
Yeah.
Smites.
Heals, lay of hands, stuff, and it may be different per deity if you have multiple deities. Divine shield.
Yeah, things like that.
Divine squires.
Yeah. They got this awesome tank, but they got that little cast inside of them that helps them out, and so this is more of your healy kind of tank, whereas your Dark Knight is your do damage and evil things. Yeah, draw.
Yeah, siphoning.
You're drawing it from other people rather than actually just healing people.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what they've got with this because most games, at least some of the old ones like the original EverQuest, you had the warrior. The warrior was a tank. You had a paladin. The paladin was almost a hybrid between the warrior and the cleric with a few nuances. And then you had the shadow knight, which seemed to be a hybrid between the warrior and the necromancer with a few nuances. But here they're doing away with that. I guess you call it that arch class almost. And now you've got crusaders and shadow knights, and I love that. That's really good.
Makes you more specialized, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or there's not like someone that's better at their job at doing this one thing, but they're like the in between. They're the hybrid, and they're not really too good.
They're kind of
Right.
good at this and
They got
kind of
they
good
got
at
the best
that,
of both
but-
worlds, but they're not the best at either one of them. They're just kind of like the in between.
Well, and you know how it used to go. I mean, at least here you have basically what is a good tank and a bad tank, and they pretty much said good tank and bad tank. You know, whether it's divided into good and bad factions or just preferences.
Yep.
I don't know, but you know, in past games, especially some of the recent ones, there's been so many tanks. Everybody and their brother can tank. Clerics can tank. Thieves can tank. Warriors can tank.
Wizards.
Rangers can tank. Everybody can
Wizards.
tank. Well, actually, to their credit, and I'm referring to Rift, Wizards, at least back when I played, couldn't tank, but everything else could. And there was always one best tank. Every single time there was one best tank, and then they would change up things, and then there'd be another best tank.
Yeah.
So you might be playing the tank you want to play, but it's not really the tank that's the most tankiest, so to speak. Which makes it hard to get groups sometimes. So in this case, with just the Crusader and the Dark Knight, there's less of a chance of that happening. They've got a chance with just two tanks to fully explore these tanks and make them, worth different ways or almost parallel but do the same thing. For instance, a Dark Knight can drain somebody's life force and health into themselves. So I'm going to drain 100 health from them into me, where a Crusader calls forth the gods and automatically heals him or herself for 100 points of health. Different ways of doing it, same end result.
Mm-hmm.
So I really foresee these two different classes as almost mirroring each other. Maybe not in the way they achieve what they're achieving, but in the end results, they're going to be very similar just by what both of them read.
Yeah. And we don't know if there's going to be like necessarily like, oh, only good can group with good or bad can group with bad, right?
Oh, I hope not. I hope everybody can group with everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And so you might have both of these tanks in your group, and one might be good for a certain mob because they're really weak against poison but they can certainly hold off against divine things or something like that, right?
And I miss that in games.
Yeah.
I as much as I never agreed on a ranger tanking at all. If you fought Werner Sather in the early days, the ranger was your tank. You put a ranger in there. So I like specialized classes for certain boss mobs for sure.
Yeah.
It makes everybody viable, adds a little bit more tactics to the raid. But that's just me. Some people will turn around and scream, "Oh no, what if we can't find one, or our guild doesn't have a Dark Knight or Crusader, or find one."
Yep, exactly. We miss that. We miss fights. Now it's just, oh, anybody can go in here, and with anybody you can have 5 of the same class and go fight a mob, and hey, that's viable and that's okay. it doesn't matter anymore, right? But we want old school or something close to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So with their divine magic, they'll be able to shield allies and use a giant shield. Size and shape of the shield can be as important as the material it is made of.
Which I like that idea. Whether you're going to use a buckler made out of wood or a kite shield made out of plate, or some kind of metal.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
To me, that almost speaks crafting.
Mm-hmm.
Crafting shields out of different materials. Hard to say. A lot of these games, crafting seems to be an afterthought.
Well, this game is not going to have it.
May or may not at launch.
Not at launch, yeah.
I'm sure it'll end up with it just like every other game does. I hope so. I really hope that they don't forsake crafting for anything. In my mind, it's something they absolutely need to add, but it's going to be really tricky because it's
that funding.
Yeah, well, funding and it's literally something that's going to be very difficult to add after launch if they don't get it at launch.
Yeah, they said maybe expansion, maybe an add-on or something, right? It just all depends on how much money they get now, and then what publishers want after that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But continuing on, our last point, and we'll just re-emphasize. Dual shielding.
Tank!
Dual wield shields.
Tank!
But
Dual wield shield.
We didn't discuss this either, but, it says in here, the Crusaders obviously can wield many combinations of weapons. You have the dual swords, the dual wielding shields, giant axes, and they also can do various spears, hammers, and lances. So never fear. You can even dual wield 2 swords if you want to. You have a wide assortment of arsenal at your beck and call.
Yeah.
But
Sounds like it's going to be a
shields.
very fun class to play.
Yeah, I know. I'm almost more excited for this than the Dark Knight.
Oh, I am. I'm very excited about this. I'm just like 3 years.
It's like, oh, come on.
Makes you want to buy that tester part, right?
I've already dropped 100 on the game. I'm sure before the Kickstarter's over, I'm going to increase it. I already know several people who have gotten the 250 already, that they started at 45, they went to 100, and then they're like, oh, we're going to do the 250. And you have any idea how much I've spent on gaming this year already? Between hardware and everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to happen. I'm just trying to wait till February so I can say, well, at least it wasn't in the same month. But yes, I'm probably going to go the 250 early tester because this game looks absolutely amazing.
And why not help it?
Why not help it? Anybody else that's following this game and you haven't made up your mind whether you want to kickstart this game or not, you need to go ahead and jump in there and do it, because I'm going to tell you, this is going to be an amazing game. And it's being created by...
Even if you're undecided at what you want to put in at first, put in the $10 or the 25, and if
get
that's
your feet wet.
Yeah, if that's all that interests you, then at least you got your money in there, and so people could see the interest rather than just holding back. And then if later on you see that, oh, this is really what I want, then you can always manage your pledge and move it up, just like many of us have already. So
yep. It's going to be an amazing game created by an amazing group of people. I cannot wait to hear and see the future information coming out weeks ahead of time.
Yep. And so
$45 pledge is all gone, by the way.
Yep, $45 alpha gone.
Yep.
Yep. So
woohoo! Go Pantheon.
Pledge.
That's right.
If you couldn't tell, we're more excited about the Crusader than any other class, because we talked for
so far
25
so
minutes
far,
on
Wizard.
Just one class. And we'll be coming out with more on each class that comes out. And what's the next one? That should
the Rogue.
The Rogue.
Yeah, the Rogue.
The Rogue. So we got some backstabbing.
And don't forget, we're going to be breaking down some of the classes as they release, or races as they release them as well.
Yep. So we're going to keep pumping out videos to help get the word out there and hopefully inform everybody. And if you're interested in these, watch them and hit like, subscribe to us, follow us on Twitch, YouTube, wherever you can find us.
We're here.
So, all right. Well, thanks, Steel, for this little quick chat on the Crusader and Nightangel. And we'll see you guys next time when we talk about probably the Ogre next.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
See y'all in a few.